What's up, everybody? David Yakir here for Yak About Today, hoping you are better, healthier, and more informed than any generation that came before. So if the years 46 to 64 mean something to you, then this is the place you want to be. Now put your headphones on, go for a run, and listen to what we yak about today. So, I've been thinking about the word authenticity. You know, it's one of those words which you've said over and over again, and then one day it pops to the front of your mind, and you begin to think of the word, what it sounds like, what it means. You know, and the more I thought about the word authentic, I guess I began to wonder if I was authentic. And do we become more authentic as we become one of the wiser and more mature? So I thought, this is important, and decided that's what we'd yak about today. So what is authenticity, and why is it important? Well, to begin with, authenticity is apparently something that is not false or copied. In other words, something that is genuine and real. I guess that's important, although it could be a bit troubling, but we'll get to that later. Most of you might not know, but authenticity is quite the buzzword now. It's been popularized as a result of social media. It is also a centerpiece of what many creative endeavors in the marketplace. Today, when portraying a brand, its creators try to make sure that brand carries a message whose claims can be confirmed or appear to be authentic. For example, a few years ago, Dove, a Unilever brand of soap, stopped portraying women as models airbrushed to perfection and began showing women's bodies as they are in life. Their bodies may have been less than ideal, portrayed by the magazines, but beautiful because the women's bodies were authentic. And of course, we've always heard the word in reference to art or sculpture. For example, when somebody asks, is that an authentic Rembrandt or Rodin sculpture? It is either true or not. And today, we even judge whether people's smiles are authentic. So there's a YouTube star. His name is PewDiePie, who is the most famous of the YouTubers and ridiculously successful with his YouTube channel. Why? Because he is considered authentic, which is, I guess, why he has billions of views. Now, to put that in perspective, he has more people watching his YouTube channel than all other TV channels put together. So, hello, advertisers. Now, I personally don't find his gaming subject matter interesting, but I get it. There is a certain honesty in how he presents himself. You begin to believe that he is representing who he actually is. So now, many of the social media stars, whether podcasters, YouTubers, tweeters, all have the same qualities. They are not trying to be professional or polished. They don't have sets or, in the case of podcasting, sophisticated recording equipment. They are themselves speaking their minds in any environment, whether it be their bedroom, kitchen, office, etc., much like I do. Now, that's important. Now, for companies doing business, authenticity is the key component of what makes social media so successful for businesses. Authentic social media is the modern-day conversation. It allows users to interact with businesses in real time, but also creates an opportunity for conversation and feedback. It forces companies to be accountable and, most importantly, be honest and authentic. As a result, it reinforces their legitimacy with their customers. So, I was wondering how you become more authentic or know if you are an authentic person. So I was reading Polly Campbell's thoughts on the subject. For those of you who don't know her, she is a yoga and meditation guru, and when speaking of authenticity, she says that at its root, authenticity requires self-knowledge and self-awareness. Authentic people accept their strengths and weaknesses. They are accountable. They are connected to their values and desires and act deliberately in ways that are consistent with those qualities. And I don't want to leave this out, but my favorite thought comes from Mike Robbins, a corporate trainer and the author of Be Yourself. He makes his case that, listen to this, everyone else is already taken, so why not be yourself? Robbins also says that authenticity allows us to connect deeply with others because it requires us to be transparent and vulnerable. It is important because it liberates us from the pressures of always trying to be something else, always trying to be perfect. But on the other hand, I'm wondering if authenticity is always a good thing. So bear with me here. Lately, there have been several experiences where I can't deny that the person was being authentic, but was there something else? And it's been bothering me. Let's begin with the person fairly close to me. We'll call her Aunt. Aunt was of an age that we here call the wiser and more mature of us, with the emphasis, by the way, on the more mature of us. She believes in staying fit. Eating well, she claims, is the reason she is still around. She also feels that she has, by nature of her age, the right to speak her mind. She claims that she strives to be authentic. And when she speaks her mind, she says those things that come to mind without going through what I call the judgment process. In other words, she either lacks the ability to censor herself or chooses not to. Case in point, a cousin comes to visit whom Aunt hadn't seen in many years. When cousin enters the room, Aunt's first response to the cousin is, "Oh, you're still fat." Now, wow, that was pretty startling. Okay, so was she being authentic, or does she just lack the ability to censor herself? When asked, she claims she was being her authentic self. But should she be? Shouldn't she have raised the level of the conversation in a way that might be more helpful to the cousin? Was it authenticity, or was it a lack of judgment that happens with age? So, more on that in a bit. So, let's take an aging politician that has a proclivity toward prejudice or racism or telling untruths. Now, this isn't out of the ordinary in this country. We are all from a tribe or a ghetto, and sometimes we feel that other tribes are different in a way we don't understand or feel, that they don't share our values, or we feel a bit of exaggeration or untruth might help to make our point. Now, most people hide those feelings and tell the truth because we know the greater good calls for us to consider everyone equal, and we know that all our teachings, religious or otherwise, preach some form of love for all men. And quite frankly, to my mind, there is no other way for a democracy to survive. So, having said that, you have this aging politician who may have been elected because his followers consider him authentic. And he considers himself authentic because he says what he feels, whether appropriate or not. So, is authentic always a good thing? Well, in many ways, yes. There is a certain truth and honesty which is always appreciated and much admired, but probably not when it works against the greater good. But as this broadcast is concerned, with the more mature of us, I want to go back to the aunt and politician because many people might be confusing authenticity with personalities that evolve with aging. In psychological sciences, there is an understanding that there is always that line between honesty and authentically speaking one's mind and lacking all social graces. And that line seems to blur with age. Older people say things that the rest of us would never consider saying. Take the aunt or the politician who say things that make us cringe when we hear them, like racially insulting remarks. Is it simply that times have changed and the more mature people are from a different and far less tolerant era? Or perhaps those in the later stage of life just don't care anymore whether they insult people. Now, both may be true, but it may be more fundamental than that. New studies suggest that something as basic as age-related changes in the brain tissue may be underlying the crankiness of old age, as well as other socially inappropriate behaviors. Now, the psychologist William Van Hippel of the University of Queensland, Australia, suspects that old people's insulting remarks aren't really meant to be insulting, that they related more to a lack of censorship than to meanness of spirit. He knew that the brain, and without going into too much biological detail, it seems that the tissue in the brain, in the frontal lobes, tends to atrophy with age, and that such atrophy could theoretically impair what's called executive functioning, which includes such skills as self-control over thoughts and behavior. And he ran several lab tests, again, which I won't go through here, but he found that older people tend to have diminished capacity for thought control, probably as a result of the changes in the brain. But here's the interesting finding, as reported in the October issue of Current Directions in Psychological Science, when Van Hippel compared the test results with actual social behavior in older folks. He found that only older folks who made inappropriate social remarks were those with diminished cognitive capacity. And these people actually knew their remarks were wrong. They professed egalitarian beliefs and did not want to be perceived as prejudiced, but they appeared unable to keep themselves from blurting out their unwelcome thoughts. Think about our politician. Racially insensitive remarks are just one example of social blunders in the elderly. Older people are also more likely to ask awkward questions in public settings like, have you gained weight recently? Or they just talk excessively about things that are not relevant to what everyone else is talking about. Van Hippel found that these uninhibited behaviors are also linked to poor executive functioning, resulting from brain atrophy. So in case of the aunt and the politician, it may not be an attempt at authenticity, but something that results from the changes that take place in the brain. And although I find that I could put up with our favorite aunt's behavior, I find I might be more skeptical of the politician's behavior as it affects that many more of us. And as for me, it's taken me many years to learn to be my authentic self. And like many others, the time wasted on trying to be someone else took away from the time to find my authentic self. So when I began this radio show, or podcast now, 3 years ago, I tried to be an interviewer or to write editorials in the same vein as the people I respected. I wanted to be them and emulate their success. And most of the time I didn't succeed. But maybe the schooling or internship was necessary because then I could find my authentic self. And if you remember Robbins, he says, everyone is already taken. So why not be myself? Now, I'm hoping I have some time before I become too authentic and cross that line where my ability to self-censor is diminished. But now, I found me and created a radio format that is my true self, and hope that you found this piece on authenticity authentic. I want to take a moment to talk to you about New Vision Eye Center. You know, for the last couple of years, they've been a sponsor of this show, and I couldn't be prouder. I've met so many people that have walked up to me and thanked me for recommending them. I hear all sorts of stories about how they've worked miracles. And as you know, I've been a patient of New Vision Eye Center for years. So when I say go see Dr. Minotti, Reinauer, Tate, and O'Brien, it's because I wouldn't trust my eyes to anyone else. Hey, boys and girls, how about a little self-promotion here? As many of you know, Yak About Today is produced by the David Yakir Group for iHeartMedia. Now, we are a digital-focused producing group that creates content and conversations built to engage our client partners with their audience. We do this by creating the best content on the strongest messaging foundation with a diversity in the media delivery formats. So, if your goal is to get you, your message, and your business out there in the digital media universe and are interested in working with the David Yakir Group, then give us a call at 212-244-6224. That's 212-244-6224, or write to us at info@yakirgroup.com. That's info@yakirgroup.com. Okay, guys and girls. So for those of you who want a little more yak about tech, we'll use these remaining minutes to talk about our digital assistants. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the show for a very long time, like the last couple of years, know that I talked originally about Alexa, as being the digital assistant. And now, especially during the Christmas season, it seems that Alexa and the Google Assistant, Google Home, have been the most bought devices, and now you can virtually find everybody who's a techie or not a techie having one of these digital assistants at home. And the challenge here isn't finding these digitized helpers. It's finding people who use them to do much more than they could with their old clock radio in the bedroom. So many people are still doing sort of the basic things. If they have a music subscription service or Pandora, they're sitting there going, hey, Pandora, play me a music station based around One Republic. And then you'll get a station, that has music similar to One Republic. And in other cases, people are saying set a timer. That's a big one in our house. Set a timer for 5 minutes, set a timer for 10 minutes, and became a real helpful gadget for when you're living with a chef. So that's pretty good. So the basic things are being used, but what people don't know is that when you have these digital assistants, right, something like Alexa comes with 30,000 skills. It could be anything from controlling your lights, controlling your ovens, controlling your dishwasher. You can even do Google searches and really a lot more. I mean, in one case, I actually have it hooked up to my Ooma phone. So when I know I want to make a phone call, I say, hey, Alexa, call my friend Bill, and that'll happen. So, there are so many things. Now, I can't tell you about all the skills, but I can tell you that when you have the Alexa app, you can search for different skills. And, in the process, it'll help you move forward with technology. So a lot of people, when they realize it can control their lights, will go out and get, Wi-Fi controlled lights that work with Alexa or Siri or Google Home. So I would suggest heavily that you guys really get to know your digital assistants and go online. See what it can do for you. You'll find that it does a lot more than you think. So before you get bored with it, we all buy new toys, and we get bored with them after we play with them for a month. This is something that should be ongoing. So the skills, it's like playing new video games. You get a new video game every week or every 5 weeks to keep your interest in the video consoles. So Go do your research. Go if you haven't gotten a digital assistant. I use Alexa, but I'll probably put Google Home in my place. And who knows what Apple's going to do with Siri. So why don't you get it? And for those people who need help, listen to what's next. And once again, I want to say thanks to our listeners for staying tuned in. Because of you, we are now carried on some of the largest podcasting systems worldwide, from iHeartRadio, iTunes, and TuneIn, to Spreaker and Blueberry in the U.S., to iVooc in Spain and South America, and Omni Studio in Australia. And chances are, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to stay in touch, look for Yak About Today on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, or write to us at yakabouttoday@gmail.com. And, of course, if you like us that much, download the Yak About Today mobile app on the App Store. This is David Yakir, and until next week, yak amongst yourselves. Peace.
Talk back. Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside. Or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak. Don't talk back. You give me no dirty looks. Your father simply knows the cooks. Tell all your hoodlum friends outside. You ain't got time to take a ride. Yakety yak. Don't talk back. Take out the papers and the trash. Or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak. Don't talk back. Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage outside. Or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak. Don't talk back.